Welcome to Negotiating Happiness, the show that helps you find happiness, success, and balance in your work and life. I'm Adriana, your host for this journey into entrepreneurship and personal growth. We're broadcasting live on 107.7 and 105.3 FM in New Orleans as part of the United Public Radio Network. We explore the latest strategies, insights, and stories from successful entrepreneurs and experts. From managing stress to building a thriving business, we've got you covered. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Adriana, your host of Negotiating Happiness. This is episode 46, and we are already on June 17th. I can't even imagine where half the year is already gone. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. And if you wanted to sit back and watch us on your big screen TV, we are on Roku TV. You just have to type in UFO Paranormal and find some of our shows on there. Today, I will have the lovely Krystal coming in from KN Creative Marketing, and we will talk all about DIY of your business, how to start out with basically $0, and what are some of the most practical tips to continue to be able to build your business in a most efficient way with a small budget, or maybe just how to learn how to invest back in your business the right way when the time comes. I did want to say hello first and bring up one of our workshops that is happening on June 26th. It is called the Think Tank. So if you are a solopreneur, a female solopreneur that wants to get together with other female solopreneurs, if you want to find your tribe, please visit our event page here. I'm going to post it in the comments. It is happening again on June 26th, and it's a whole day where we're planning out our quarters, we're networking, we're connecting with everybody that's coming in, and hopefully not feeling as overwhelmed and feeling a little bit more prepared for summer for our businesses and maybe for our personal lives. We do talk a lot about how to handle your personal calendar with your business calendar, with all of the things that you have to do as an entrepreneur. So without further ado, if you guys want to hang in tight, I'm going to bring in Krystal here so we can get started today.
Hello.
Hello, Krystal.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for being on. I was so excited when I looked at my calendar, and I was thinking I'm coming back from vacation and I'm having probably one of the best chats ever with Krystal. So thank you so much for coming in.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So if you're just new tuning in here, we've had Krystal on before, and I'm going to do a quick wrap up of, who she is, what she does, so that everybody is, familiar. But if you have seen Krystal before, hang tight. She's got some tidbit news that you might want to listen to as well. So here we go. Who is Krystal? She is a Wix Legend Partner, and her mission is to help small business owners feel confident about their digital marketing strategy. With a strong background in sales and marketing, she has designed a straightforward process that allows her clients to focus on what matters most to them. She's passionate about supporting women-owned businesses and values, building trust with each client, taking the unique needs into account. At KN Creative Marketing, Krystal believes everybody deserves a website and branding that represents a unique identity and voice. Her collaborative approach ensures that websites reflect her clients' voices, values, and personalities while providing a safe space for feedback. So if you ever need anything in terms of websites, let Krystal make your business dreams a reality. I promise you, you will be in great hands. I do want to talk a little bit about what's upcoming, but I'm going to just kind of go over what we're talking about today, and then you can tell us the big news that of your projects. I can't wait. of what's happening, what's new. I feel like I can't even talk after vacation. You guys, I've been away for about 3 weeks now almost, and I know, poor me, but I just can't wrap my head around being back in the seat. It feels like it wasn't a long time, but it was a long time. So go on vacation at your own risk, I guess.
Go on vacation. Figure it out when you get back. That's later you's problem.
Exactly. But for me, it's now a problem. So I am struggling on screen today. It's fine.
All good. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, we've been on before. I can't remember what we talked about, but I should go back and listen to that one. If you want to check that out, I'm sure it's listed somewhere.
I think it was a lot of website faux pas and a lot of points of what to look for when you're doing your website. So
what to look for. Yeah. So this time around, I thought I would talk about starting out, like starting your business. And I know that there's a lot of talk about having to have things perfect and, done right off the bat and investing a ton of money into starting your business. And I think that if you are a product delivery business, you do have to invest in like your product, right? Like if you're making bath bombs, you have to buy the product and the setup. But if you're a service-based business, there's so much that you can do to start, even like the first few months, like getting your first client, where you don't have to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars into your business. So I'm really excited to talk about how I started my business with little investment. And then as my business grew and I got more clients, I did have to invest in different things like softwares, but that was down the line. It wasn't like the initial setup. So, and I do have something coming down the pipeline, and that's I'm in the midst of creating a Wix course. So it will be for those who want to design their own website or who have designed their own website and now they're wanting their website to work for them. So if you have a website and you're like, I want to add booking features so I can collect payments, I want to add an e-commerce store, I want to host events and charge for them, I'm creating a course on how to add those specific apps to your website. So to take your website from like a portfolio to a converting machine where you can be, making money while you sleep and while you're on vacation, and those sales can be rolling in.
Yeah, I call it going from an informational website to a functional website, a store, or like a front desk for your website, for your business, right? So this is super important. And I know there's a lot of small business owners who look at those apps and they have no idea, how to connect them or how they work. And it can get really confusing. I also have lots of experience with Wix, probably not as much as you. You are a pro, and Wix has recognized that too, which is so amazing. The ins and outs of it. But even from my experience, it takes a minute to be like, okay, this part, now that I've connected it, what happens next, or what happens when I have different options? And this is the really great part about website builders. I know that a lot of people are not fans of them, and that's fine. It's up to preference, right? Everybody that I talk to, they're either WordPress fans or they're not. I can work with most of these platforms, and I can say with certainty that these website builders are built for people like us who are solopreneurs, who are entrepreneurs, who started from zero, to be able to allow us to have, these very necessary parts of business, which is a website. So I really do like Wix, and I think it's very, very functional. Once you get the hang of it, you realize how much you can do with it. It's amazing, but it can be really, really daunting at first when you're like, okay, great, I've popped up a page. Now what? Right. So that is awesome news. That is awesome news to know.
Yeah. So, and the programs themselves, so the apps that I'm doing my courses on, them in themselves, like how to choose the right one, right? So is it bookings app, or am I going to do like an event? Do I want like a group? Do I want to have an appointment first off? Or are they just going to, get some information first? So all of those questions are kind of answered. I am going to have a freebie. So the freebie is going to be just explaining what all the different apps do and why you would choose one over the other. So then you can make informed informed decision. All this information is, of course, available online if you want to look at the Wix website. But sometimes there's just something about having somebody tell it to you straight without having to read through all the pages on community blocks.
It saves so much time. It saves so much time once you get to the point where you're really busy with clients. You start appreciating more and more people just giving you the information, and we can't take that for granted. I know that a lot of people probably get lots of DMs about, hey, how do I do this? And how do I do that? And sometimes it's appropriate to ask. Sometimes it's not appropriate to ask. We've had entire shows where we talk about this. It's unfortunate that some people don't understand that, we have limited time, but isn't it amazing that we put out these freebies where people can literally get information that they need? So if you were looking to upgrade your website, this is definitely something that I would recommend, is to go to people like Krystal, who are the website designers and the doers and the owners and the people who have the knowledge, and get those freebies, because you will get valuable information. And to be honest, I know this because I'm also super overwhelmed by the amount of information that comes into my inbox. But this is where you realize that you have the option to choose. So once you're done your planning in your business and you realize you have to put some time into your website, it's easy to be like, okay, who do I trust? I'm going to go to Krystal's page, get a freebie, and she's going to tell me what apps I need, or at least give me some information so I can make an informed decision, right? If you need more, then, you can figure out, can I DIY this, or do I need to let a professional do it?
That's right.
Or you can, if you have the time, I guess you can go on Wix, and Wix has all this information available. But imagine sitting there sifting through the Wix archives just to find all of it. And to be perfectly honest, it's written for the general public so that the general public can maybe, I'll understand it. It's not written from another business owner's point of view, where they tell you straight up, hey, this is the function you're looking for. Here's what you need to do. You're not going to find that on Wix. I mean, I've looked. I've looked. Trust me, I've looked for many things.
That is fair. And even me. So I've been working with Wix now since 2021 exclusively, and I know their language, right? Like I know what they call things, and stuff like that. But if you don't know the language and you're searching for something and you're using the wrong word, then you're not going to find what you're looking for. So it's really exciting. So it's not out yet. I do have a wait list, so you can sign up for my email list, and then I'm going to have a special offer when they do launch. I'm thinking probably mid-September is when they're all going to be available. I'm almost done them. I just have to kind of put the finishing touches on. And then, of course, summer is coming. So I'll be working a little bit this summer. Yeah. So if we want to start talking about.
So here's the wait list. Let me just, sorry, I know there's a little bit of lag here. I'm just going to pop the wait list in the comments as well. So sign up for the wait list here. You don't want to miss it, especially if you're looking to zhuzh up your website, this year, maybe early next year. So I've just popped it in there. It will take a minute to populate. But yeah, tell us how you started this and how we are able to keep such a tight budget, because obviously things like Wix, it costs money, or, getting somebody to design your website and whatnot. Tell us what your hacks were or what your practical tips are.
Well, I'll tell my story. When I first started my business, I wanted to start a business for years and years before I did, probably about 10 years. And when I finally made the decision to leave corporate and start my own business, I was scared. I was very scared. I thought I was going to fail. I wasn't sure. I wanted to put all these safety measures in place in case it didn't work out. I could go back and do, the 9 to 5 again. So I was really hesitant, to be honest, to put any money towards my business. I have 2 little kids, mortgage to pay for. I didn't have, money just lying around like a lot of people. So what I did is the first thing that I did was I networked. And I think that it's so valuable talking to other business owners, getting involved in like your local community, whether it's like a Facebook group or, some organization, like government organizations have places that you can go and ask questions about entrepreneurship, and really asking, how did you start? What did you do? What programs did you use? And finding that information. I had tons of like one-on-one calls, kind of like this, like a video call with other entrepreneurs. And I just had my laundry list of questions. And I feel like other entrepreneurs who have been there are so willing to give you advice starting out.
Mm-hmm.
For me, one of my biggest hurdles was bookkeeping, bookkeeping, accounting. It was just, I love Excel, but knowing how to do bookkeeping, I was really worried about doing it wrong and then owing money and taxes and all this stuff. So I had a few conversations with different people about like, what do you do? How do you set it up? What programs do you use? So one of the programs that I started using for bookkeeping and invoicing was Wave. So it's a free version, and I found it really, really great. Like it had a lot of different functions for free, which is incredible. So great invoices. I could make myself look professional while not having a professional software. So I think in the beginning, that is the key. The key is to look like you have your stuff together when, you're using free software. So instead of, just making an invoice on a Google Doc, just download Wave. It's free. It'll look professional. It'll have your logo at the top. It'll have your business information. Be legit. So Wave was a good one. The other one is Google Suites. So Google Suites is free. You can set up your business profile on there. Even if you don't have a website, you still have a free profile with all of the, Word, Google Docs, Google Sheets, PowerPoint. You can have forms that people fill out on there, just taking advantage of all of that free programming.
100%. I'm still a really big fan of Google Suite. When I left corporate, I was sort of, entangled into the whole Microsoft Office. And not that it's not working, it is working, but it's never going to be free. So it was something that I had to switch over to. And it took me, I thought it was going to be a terrible time, trying to adjust to it. But being a little bit more tech inclined, it didn't take me any time at all. I think for a regular person, I don't think it would take very long at all. You just have to put in the commitment to actually just use it and cut off any other resources, because then you're just overusing, like you're using both and then you're not really being efficient. So I agree. I think you should use as many free tools out there as possible, especially when you have very low volume. I don't think people realize, but when you have low volume, either in transactions or data or anything like that, a lot of these really great tools offer free, not even a trial. You can have free accounts as long as you stay under a certain amount of data, right? So even Zapier, for example, the connector that connects one program to the other, if you just want to go from A to B and you have less than 5 zaps a month, you can have, or at least that's what it used to be, you can have a free account. So don't be afraid to just go in and try things without having to, commit your credit cards to a lot of these fees, because a lot of the business owners that I talk to, they don't even know the subscriptions that they have, right? And sometimes it's overwhelming for me too, and I see it firsthand. So 100% agree. If you get along with Wave, use Wave. It is free. I also started out with a really low cost option for a website. I'm talking like, when you did the math, I think it was like $2, $3 a month, what it took to host. And that's what my first website was. And I have to say that website brought in more leads than I ever thought it could. And you just kind of have to believe, right? Everything else was Google Suites for me too. And I didn't really invest until I started making, more money than I didn't start investing until I saw that I was consistent for a long time, because for me, inconsistency, it just gives me anxiety, right? Just like everybody else that's in the same type of, financial situation. But once I started being consistent, I was like, okay, like what can I budget to invest? But until then, it was literally just DIY, free tools, testing out more tools. I mean, that's like my business really, is trying to find other solutions. So I'm always going to tell people, test it. If it's new, so what? Test it out. They usually have a trial. Don't be afraid to do that. Another practical tip is just pausing and keeping track of what you're doing, because it can be, you very quickly can spin out of control. And I am also guilty of this. Like, if you say to yourself, I want to get this website done, or I want to get a freebie out, or I want to contact, 5 past clients, give yourself really realistic timelines, because if you don't, I've seen this lots, people think that they have on their plate more than they can handle. So then they start looking at, oh, maybe I need to hire somebody. And I don't think that's like a good use of your resources. A lot of people are not ready to hire somebody because you're not organized enough to give somebody else work to do. And then you find yourself sitting there going, why aren't they doing what I need them to do? Right? Like, I started out as a VA. So that was like a really big red flag for me when I saw how disorganized sometimes people were. And it's not, they just didn't know any better. I don't think they were doing it on purpose. They just didn't know any better, but that cost them money.
Yeah. Yeah. I found my business journey has been like, now that I'm looking back on it after a few years, I can see that there's been like levels, right? So when I first started, everything was like free resources, and I had a few clients and I was able to manage that. And then once I had more clients and it was taking me too long to implement them into my current system, I was making some money. Then I knew, okay, it's time to make this more efficient, right? I have more work. It's too much for my Excel spreadsheet. I need to upgrade. So at that point, then for me, what I did is I invested a little bit and I did like one program at a time. I implemented it, saw how it worked for my business. If it was working, great. If it needed tweaks, I tweaked it. And I did like one thing at a time, right? So first thing I did was I got the real accounting software. Then, I did my branding and I did my website and I increased my website. I also downloaded CRM. So I'm using Dubsado for my business, which was a huge game changer. So I went from keeping an Excel spreadsheet or a Google Sheets spreadsheet of my clients and trying to remember to follow up and trying to remember where each stage was at. And it just got too much. I think after about a year, I was like, okay, I'm spending more time looking through my spreadsheet, following up with people, keeping track of what's happening than I am actually doing client work. So I knew that it was time to invest, right?
Yeah.
And investing the money and the time to learn how to do it. So that's another choice that you have to make, right? Am I going to hire somebody to set up this program for me, or am I going to invest the money to hire them, or am I going to invest the time to set it up myself? And like, you have to know yourself, right? If you're not savvy, then maybe that's something that you need to outsource. But if you're really good at doing client work, then, you stick to that and you let other people do the other thing.
I've had clients that are really tech savvy and they still hired me because they kept putting it off and off and off, because they realized that, maybe I just don't have the time to do this. And I'm making more money doing what I'm good at rather than having, this program sit on my plate here and taking up even more of my administrative time or my administrative brain space than I have. So that's also another, another thing to think about. I don't think that when we first start out, we appreciate how much our time is worth. And I think that then translates into making poor decisions or not the best decisions for our website, whether it's pricing because you're thinking, well, it doesn't take me that long. Yeah, but that time has, knowledge and experience behind it that we don't take into account. Or if it's, oh no, I'll just do it myself and, I'll save some money. But with that being said, being realistic about it, I still do a lot of things myself, right? So what about you? So aside from, obviously, you're the website guru, so chances are you probably do a lot of your own website stuff still, right?
Yeah. So I do all my own website stuff and all my own branding. The things that I outsource is my bookkeeping and accounting. I don't do any of that now. Like, I have books and I upload my receipts. That's all I do. Everything else is done. It's just not, it's not something that I enjoy doing. It's not something that I'm good at doing. And if I were to take time and do it myself, it would take me way more time and
It's
effort
true.
than it would if I was using that time for client work and making money than having somebody else do it. So it might take
It's
me
true.
10 hours a month to do it, where my bookkeeper spends like half an hour doing
Right.
it. Yeah.
No, it's true. I hate it. And I promised myself that I would deal with it, and I still haven't dealt with it. So this is definitely on my to-do list. But there are other, like, are there other things that you would DIY?
That I would DIY?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I DIY like all of my own marketing. That's what I do. So
Mhm.
email marketing and
Yeah.
everything. There are some things that I don't DIY, which might I don't know, surprise you, is my CRM. So when I did my CRM, I tried to DIY it myself. I'm pretty tech savvy. I spent
Yeah.
a very long time trying to set it up. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to wait. I think I waited like 4 or 5 months. I saved up my money and then I hired somebody to set it up fully for me. And I'm
Yeah.
so glad that I did that. And I waited my time. I saved up my money. I didn't have to like invest right away
Yeah.
because, you know, I appreciated it more at the end. But, you know, everything has its levels. Like I was saying,
Yeah.
you're starting out, you don't have any money to invest. That's okay. You just make do with what you have. You mentioned something that triggered something in me, and that was about your time, your time. So
Yes.
capacity management, I always think, if anything, capacity management is such a huge thing. And it's so easy to be a new business owner, do everything yourself, not spend any money. And then at some
Yeah.
point, you're going to burn yourself out. So when I first
You
started
also
my
stagnate. You stagnate in growth. And I know that people might not think that. And some people might be okay with it because that's the level they want to be at. But if you want to keep growing, you can't do everything yourself. You can't be the thinker and the doer.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I think a couple things. When you're first starting out, I think it's okay to invest like 24 hours a day on your business. I think it's important to really get in there and inundate yourself with this passion project. And I think that it kind of lays the foundation for your motivation and your determination and your grit. And that's when you learn it all, right? In the trenches, when you're
Yeah.
in there and you know, your kids go to bed and it's 11:30 at night. You're like, I just need to send this one thing. You
Yep.
learn that. And a few years later, after you've implemented some systems, you've made more money, then you can sit back and say, I worked so hard for this, right? It was a success. It was worth the hard work, the sweat and the grit to get to a
Yes.
good place. And I think if
Yes.
you're not willing to put in that hard work at the beginning, then it might not turn out as you hope to turn out. Maybe it's just my experience, but starting a business was hard, right? Like you're going to
Yeah.
DIY do things. If you have money to invest, that's awesome at the beginning, but also your business is going to change. Your business is going to change and evolve down the road. And if you spend the money and put systems in place right away, you might have to do it again later. Uh-oh. Can you hear me?
Yeah. And that's the thing that I think that most business starting out don't realize is that you will eventually kind of accost. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh.
I think we just
Are we
went
having some technical
on the
difficulties?
edge there. Yeah. Yeah.
I see this all the time with business owners where they don't realize that you know, they're going to have to do this again once they experience growth because those systems or those programs no longer fit into what they're needing to do, and that's okay. That's why when we look at these platforms, we test out some capacity to say, where do you see yourself, you know, next year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? What's it worth it to you? Like, how often are we going to have to change this? We do have these discussions because it's important for them to know this is to support you now. You might change for the better, right? Or I've seen people who have downsized because they're just way happier at a certain level, right? And that's okay too. Our business journey does not have to be the same as the next person's business journey. So it's quite all right. But that's why I do think that there are certain things that you should do first in your business before you kind of go in and say, I'm going to hire somebody to help me with this and this. And I said, well, tech can do that for you. So why don't we do that first, so that when you do have the funds to hire that person, they can do some of the higher level stuff that maybe tech can't do for you, right? And I think people, because I do offer VA services, I think people are very confused by that. And I was like, I'm not trying to sell you. I'm trying to help you develop. Like, my main goal here is business development. It's not, selling you on services that you potentially I could get make.com or Zapier to do for you, right? So it doesn't make any sense to me. So it's like funny to hear that.
Working smarter, not harder, right?
Yeah, exactly. Nobody's going to give you a medal. Like, I know what you're saying about, my kid's going to bed and then I have to go in and do this and this. I am the worst for that. And I am the one that does not keep my own boundaries when it comes to working late. I am the problem. So I completely understand. But eventually, this is going to catch up with you, and nobody's giving you a medal, right? Like, work smarter, not harder. No one's going to give me a medal for me sleeping 5 hours a night. Do you know what I mean? It's actually quite bad for you. So
yeah, for sure. So when you get to that point where you're like, okay, this isn't working for me anymore, that's when it's time to invest. That's when it's time to put the money in, make the systems better. You're not spending, 3 hours at midnight doing follow-up emails. You have an automation that just does it for you.
Right. Yeah. But what a great thing to do is to look back and say, I used to use Clockify because it was free. I happened to get a free version of QuickBooks, which was great. Right. That was fancy at the time. And I also use Google Suite for everything, and Canva, right? Even Canva has the free option until you need the more, elaborate kind of functions or photos or galleries. So I used a lot of the free stuff at the beginning too. And I was making, my profit margin was probably higher back then than it is now, considering the amount of time that I put into more marketing, more, right? It's always like more. But yeah, now I've got subscriptions like Loom and, Flowdesk and, actually, here's a new one. I made a quiz that I still haven't launched. It's been sitting for 6 months on Interact. It's not a cheap subscription to have, so I need to get on it, but it's just so easy to kind of get caught up in all of the things that are happening and just not do it. But also, how cool that I made that quiz with the help of AI and my own ideas, right? Like, it's kind of showing you're getting the benefit from all these things. And I think along the way, I think I've been able to do so much in less time, even though I don't see it right now because I've overloaded my plate. I think I have been able to save time in the right places because I do invest in certain things. I've even invested in a mastermind, which I think took me from thinking that my business was this to thinking that it's actually what it is. So I think that was huge for me. I was able to reshuffle my services and understand better how I can present myself to my own audience. So I think that was huge. That was a really big investment for me. That was the biggest investment I've ever made for 9 months, but I think it was also the one that produced the most results ASAP.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like your mindset and your plan, like where your head is at with your business. If you're at a place where you can say, 6 months from now, I want to see this in my business. A year from now, I want to see this in my business. 5 years from now, maybe this is what my vision is. Then that's how you're going to be able to build your plan and decide, where should I invest? Like, where should I put my hard-earned money now to reach that goal? Yeah. And it's very important to have that. You can't just fly by the seat of your pants. I need this subscription. I need that subscription. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that without thinking it through. Right. So you have to be smart about where you're putting your money to have it match your realistic, measurable goals.
That's right. That's right. I'm just going to pause for a second here so we can do a station intro before we resume our conversation here. So for anybody that's tuning in, you are listening to Negotiating Happiness, and we are live on 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network. So I hope you guys can grab your lunch or a cup of coffee, or even if you're listening to the replays, we are here with KN Creative Marketing and Krystal, and we are talking about how we started our business on a tight budget, and sometimes that meant $0, and what that looks like now for us in terms of investing back in our business and, what's upcoming for us. Kind of looking at a back then versus now picture, which I always love because it gives you a different kind of perspective when you're kind of stuck in the trenches, right? So thank you again, Krystal, for coming on. We were just finishing up talking about some of the platforms that we used. I'm sure there's going to be more that come up throughout the conversation that helped us kind of keep costs low. Like even my website host was, only like about $3 a month when you did the math. And again, if you're a service-based business, you don't tend to have a lot of overhead until you start investing in the bigger things or when you start working with subcontractors or employees. So yeah, I mean, I think the conversation is already a lot easier, but if you're a product-based business, that's where you've got a lot of homework to do, right? Finding suppliers and, shipping and all of that fun stuff. Not just that, but production, or even if you're a reseller, you still have some of those issues that come in. Krystal and I are primarily, service-based, so it's a little bit easier for us to talk in terms of how to maximize our revenue that's coming in. And one of the things that we touched upon also was bookkeeping. Bookkeeping is still a pain in my business that I still need to take care of. But this is why we talk on the show. You guys know I keep it real. Things are not perfect, and they're not meant to be perfect, or else there's no growth in your business. So we continuously learn. So in terms of DIY, Krystal, I'm willing to guess that one thing you're not going to DIY ever again is your bookkeeping, correct?
That's correct. I'm committed.
I am also committed to get to that point because I absolutely hate it. So fair. Yeah. One thing that I DIY also is my, actually part of my marketing. I do have a social media manager that helps me with posts and staying on top of things. And here's a profession that people don't really think about, and that's copywriters. I think they're very important, especially for service-based businesses, because they help tell your story in a way that I don't think we are ever able to get. You have to get out of your head to be able to tell it like they do. That was one investment that I made, was for get help with a copywriter. Yes. And my next investment.
I'm right there with the copywriter. I'm right at that. Right. I'm ready to going to be jumping levels soon to copyright. And it doesn't have to come right away, right? Like I'm 3.5 years into my business and I'm like, okay, time for a refresh and to take that step. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think my next big refresh is going to be the website. I haven't been able to give that up yet because I do some of it myself, and I'm thinking, this is pretty functional for me. I'm able to integrate some of the apps that I want to already, so it's doing its job. But this is one of those things that you can kind of make a decision on. It's like, what can you wait on, right? And we're not all in the same position. Like not everybody can do that on their own. So that's why when I said we probably DIY our websites, but a lot of people can't. And that's okay. That's something that you need to invest in right away. That's our good fortune, I guess, that we know how to do that, right? Through many hours spent.
You have the tech on your side too. So for me, when I was setting up the tech in my software, that's like a gray area for me. Like I could invest the time and the energy to learn how to do it. But still, at the end of the day, I'm not sure if it's as efficient as it could be. So that's an area of my business that I'm outsourcing more and more, is setting up my tech, making sure everything is running smoothly, setting up my
Yeah.
automations. Because,
Yeah.
I can muddle through it, just like maybe a lot of business owners. You can muddle through a website. You kind of get the lay of it. You kind of have an idea, and you can set it up for sure. I could set up my tech, but there's always a question. Is it as good as it could be?
Right.
For me,
Right.
right?
And that's something that you're always going to struggle with if you don't have that kind of outside help. And I think that's where some of my own question comes from my website. If I'm helping somebody else's, it's so funny. It's like I can step out of my own head and just be like, yep, this is the way that it flows. This is the way that it goes. But when it comes to your own business, there's just so many question marks, because I think imposter syndrome gets in the way. But that's just one part of it. But even with social media, I find that I can never keep up with the trends. Not that I'm out there dancing. I am not. That is not my jam. I also don't think that going viral helps a business like mine, because it just being viral doesn't necessarily guarantee you any clients. And even so, are you at the point where you can sustain all that? Because you lose momentum, and then it's just like a wasted resource, right? So there are so many downsides about going viral that's not something that I'm looking for. I just want to have consistent content where people can come to the page and say, hey, this person's active, this person is within their industry, they collaborate with people, like whatever is important to me, I want it to show in there. But even with that, sometimes you're just stuck. So yes, I DIY it, but I'm so glad I have Taylor to help me, figure out some of the ins and outs. And she does graphics, and she'll do captions, and I had a copywriter, Diana, who shout out to Diana. She has a way with words. I know lots of copywriters, love them all. But she specifically helped me with strategy on posts that are repeatable. So it's not just pillars. It was topics of discussion that come up again and again in my business. So we take that now from Diana and take it in with Taylor, and like the collaboration just continues that way. That was a great investment, because it allows you to continuously, use that information that you might not necessarily always have in the front of your mind, because you're a business owner. So you're doing everything else. You're thinking about your clients' work. You're thinking about all of it. So that was a good investment for me too.
Yeah. I've started working with a social media manager as well. So I've been working with her for a few months. And for me, like creating the content and doing the content strategy it came easy to me, but it was the time that it's taking me versus I could have another client in that time. So I still have a pretty heavy hand in the type of content that's going out. Like we have a shared Google Doc on Google Forms. And every month I'm going to write out, like, what are my key points? What do I want to promote? What kind of messaging do I want to give across? Like, where are my clients at this stage? And how do I want to talk to them? But yeah, she puts it all together for me, right? So she takes my words, she, makes them brand aligned. She creates the graphics, and she posts for
polishes them.
Polishes it up, and that's just so much time that now I can use to go out and get more clients and make more money. Really,
exactly. And just develop your experience too. It's not always about money. It's about, I say this all the time, I catch myself doing things for free for people sometimes, because, and I'm in no way promoting that, because I do think that that's a problem with time. I just think if the opportunity presents itself and I'm already doing XYZ, if I have to do, something small and makes the client happy, great. I think that's also promoting, being flexible and being for the client, and that client brings in other people in, which I think is wonderful. And more often than not, the people that you get referred are already pre-qualified. They are not cold leads. They are warm leads, right? So it does save time in the end when it comes to development. But I'm now thinking too, after coming back from vacation, having, some time to think about what are some of the things that I didn't even need to use in the last 6 months, and maybe thinning down my subscription list again because I think it got out of hand. And I think it was mostly from panicking that I didn't have my planning done, right? So you panic, you start buying things to make it easier, and then you realize I still need to run these things.
Yeah. And then time to set them up and make sure that they're
definitely
functioning properly.
Yeah, exactly. So what's another thing that we DIY?
So, and this is
Aside.
something too, I DIY my branding. I have had 3 brand changes since I started my business. And that's the thing, right? Like when you first start your business, you're like, oh, I'm going to just slap something together and get out there. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then, after some time, maybe your services change, you change direction, you want to give it a change. What you see here, this is number 3. Where is it? There you go. That's number 3. And
Right.
I'm itching to just make a small change.
You can't. You cannot.
Just a little change, just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
I love it. But I've had it now for 2 years, and I think it's time to, have a refresh. And that's something about branding and websites is they're all kind of temporary, right? So if you are going to DIY it and you're not 100% sold on it, it's okay. Just let it slide for as long as you can. And when you feel like it's really not aligned, then take the time and rebrand. There are tons of great platforms. Like Canva is awesome for logos. Like if you're going to DIY your logo, use Canva. They have this like AI integration now. It's fantastic. So for sure, for people starting out, Canva has a lot of great things. You can do presentations in there. You can actually have like a website landing page in your Canva as well. I think that you need the subscription for that, but the subscription for Canva is multifaceted, right? You're going to be able to use it for many things in your business as opposed
100%.
to just having a website or like Adobe or something like that.
Yeah. And we are talking from this point of convenience too, right? Canva is convenient, but also we're probably not the businesses that need to have a lot of printed materials, so we get to save a lot of money on that. We're mostly digital, unless we do things like workshops or retreats. That's when you'd have to print some materials to have them available to do in-person events, which I still love, by the way. I know that I'm in the digital space, but I still love doing that. So that is obviously a big part of saving money that way. However, here's a practical tip. When you're looking at how to make your materials and you need them printed, obviously shop around. If I could support a small print shop, I would. So I always look for one. However, at the end of the day, like if I can't afford what they're offering, because I understand they price things out as they are, given as well. The good part about things like Vistaprint or that people might not know this, Vistaprint will send out their orders to be printed locally. So it's actually, you're getting, so some of them are printed locally. They just find their own kind of subcontractors, but they still come in like Vistaprint branding and, with the coupons and whatever else. I've been able to save my clients too so much money with certain coupons. I mean, it's not uncommon for me to max out their order and they're saving like $150. Like that's a lot of money for printed materials and whatnot. So don't feel so bad. Just do your research into, what's available around you. Plus what are some of the prices on Vistaprint? How many times do you have to do it? Do you have to do it a lot? Can you find a better alternative? Then great. If not, things like this. I've printed with Canva before too. They have really nice finishes. I don't know though whether they do print locally. I would imagine they would also send locally because those things popped up really quickly. So
and then they get delivered really fast. So they might. I didn't even think about that. You mentioned coupons.
Yeah,
that's another hack, is when you're first starting your business, follow those softwares or those things that you want to invest in and wait for deals to come up. So with Dubsado, I actually I think it was Black Friday, and I got
Yes.
50% off my first year. It
Amazing.
was amazing, right? And
Yeah.
didn't get any deals with QuickBooks, but there are tons of other coupons that you can find, even like 10% off.
Affiliate links. Affiliate links are really good too, even with Dipsado. Anybody can have an affiliate link, even if you don't sell it or set it up like I do. I don't sell it, but I set it up. It's like 30% off. Why would you not, right? All we get is like, I think a $20 or $30 credit towards our next purchase. So it's not something that I want to sell. It's mostly like, hey, I have this affiliate link. If you were thinking of signing up, save however much. And it is cheaper when you do it annually. Obviously, everybody wants, the whole thing right away. But if you can't, there are options to do it monthly as well, if that's just more manageable for you.
Yeah.
So
For sure.
it's great. It's great. Yeah. Coupons, Vistaprint. Oh, 100%. I still look for coupons with Vistaprint if I need to. What else do we do? That's kind of, I've bought my hosting for 4 years because it saved me, I think, a whack load of money when I did it.
And these websites, so Wix does often have, if you're building a brand new website with Wix, they usually have every few weeks, just a little tip. I think it's like every third Thursday and first Thursday, they have a 50% off. So if you create a new account, create a new website, you will get a notification for 50% off your Wix website. And if you do have the money to invest, get it for as long as you can, because you're never going to get that deal again.
Also, here's a bit of information that always surprises my clients when I work with Wix. If you have a certain package and you need to upgrade, they will credit you the upgrade. So you're not just forgetting about, especially if you have time left on your package, they will credit you that towards your upgrade. So I know
it is, right? Like they take what you have. So it's not like
they prorate it. Yeah, they prorate whatever's left and then they give it to you towards your upgrade, which is great. I know people get annoyed a lot about, oh, of course I can't do that because I have to upgrade. But the reality of it is everybody does that. They keep certain features that they know are sought after, but maybe not everybody needs to be able to, get that upgrade or get more money from the sale. It is what it is. That's the world that we live in now.
Yeah. Email marketing is another area that they have a lot of awesome free platforms like MailChimp, and MailerLite has a really great, robust free platform. So really just like comparing, if you look online and you say like, MailChimp versus MailerLite versus Flowdesk, there's just so many resources out there to help you make a decision. And also I think for people just starting out, especially if you're working on a free platform, it's okay to like start on one and then realize later that this isn't working for me and do something else. I would encourage those who are just starting out to like not spend too much time worrying about the perfect software, because your needs are going to change. Things are going to change down the line. Just kind of like do it as you need it. And at the end of the day, it's all going to work out.
Yeah. I get this question a lot of what's better. And I get frustrated because I don't have an answer for them, because I'm always thinking, what do you need? Because my answer will, change depending on what your needs are. Some people do just fine with MailChimp, and then some people like Flowdesk because they have way nicer designs and the ability to, make them look different. Whereas MailChimp is more stable sometimes, or more straightforward. So it just depends. So don't get hung up on what it is. See if it's good for you for the time being. And the rule is like, will it work for you in a year or two, or will you have to change? Because if it's less than a year that you have to change, maybe look at another platform. But if you're saying, I don't see any big changes coming up in the next year, then try it out, right? Try it out. A lot of these platforms have the ability to import and export information. So even if you have to move, you can export your information out and import it in there. Nobody's asking you to do, manual data entry. There are usually lots of ways around that now, so do not get bogged down with that. That's very good advice. Just try it out, see if it works for you, and go from there.
Yeah. Don't spend too much time. I did that a little bit at the beginning. I was like, oh, I don't know what I should use. And I spent too much time trying to figure it out. When my workload was small, I should have been spending more time doing lead generation, which is another avenue that you can pay for, or you can DIY. And I am a huge believer in networking and lead generation that way. You create your freebie and you have your funnel, and you just have to pound the pavement and get your name out there. Things like being on podcasts with people. Like, there's so many avenues, doing collaborations, doing joint giveaways with other people in the same industry as you. There's tons of ways to market and get leads without spending any money.
There are, and my favorite one is having a website, because that's just what's proven right for me. And then as soon as I started being consistent and some time has passed and my content has changed, Instagram has proven to be really good for that too, which I was super shocked. Right. Networking events. I've walked out of networking events with a project in hand before. It works. You just have to go out there. You have to ask. And I don't consider myself being a salesy type of person. I don't aim for that. I don't, we talk a lot. I give out a lot of free information. A lot of people say, maybe you should stop, but I just want to help. So I think people see that, so they're able to connect with you better, right? So I've had many, many, many meetings where I have not charged, right? To be like, I think you should do this, and I think you should do that. And that's maybe just one of the ways that I build relationships. But you're right. If you don't put in the effort, nobody's going to know who you are. Nobody's going to see what you can do. And it's just harder. You're just kind of swimming upstream at that point, right? We just get bombarded with so much information. It's kind of like, where do you even start if you don't start there, right? I don't tend to.
Go ahead.
I
was going to say, I think networking too, not only is the lead generation, but you're also getting your name out there, and you're also building your community as a business owner, which is so important. I think building your community and having like real life resources of people who are in your same industry. Like I have this like group of creatives that we meet up, and yes, technically we are competitors. We have the same target audience. We deliver the same product, but we're there to support each other and have these kinds of discussions like, oh, I had this problem with this client. What did you do? What did you do? Like, it's such an amazing thing to have that community behind you, especially as a solo entrepreneur. And if you're like me, there's nobody in my family who's a business owner. None of my close friends are business owners. So I have to really reach out that way. And it's kind of priceless.
Yeah. And it's great.
Yeah. I think we're lagging a little bit again.
I know we're almost done here. But I wanted to say that I think that's great. And I think that's why we work so well too when we do collaborate or when we do network, because we have the same kind of mindset. But unfortunately, not everybody has the same kind of mindset where they would not want to do certain collaborations. I think it's a missed opportunity, because we have the opportunity to learn from each other all the time, right? So I think there's enough room for everybody to get what they need. But it's 2:00 already, and we've talked all about how to DIY and how to save money, but also how to propel our business forward. So it's not all about saving money. It's just about investing smart, and it's about making the right choices for you. And there is no set path. There are always custom solutions for everybody involved. So that's the beauty of it. Now, thank you so much for coming on, Krystal. I know we were talking a little bit before then, but you're you're also taking a break in the summer. Have a great time when you do that. I just came back. I'm having vacation blues. So I think, excuse me, I'm having a rough time even talking today. So here we go. Thank you for everybody that joined in. And next week, we will pick right back up at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you to the platform, United Public Radio Network. We appreciate having the opportunity to speak out about business things, and hopefully we are building the community that we want to continue to interact with. So drop your comments or your questions in the comments, and we will get back to you as well. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful, wonderful week.